countries?
Yes.
And then America and Australia and Europe is they are actually more economically developed. You think so?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So our topic for today is based on development. Right. Thank you very much, Lina, and everyone who participated. Our topic for today is based on development. Okay. So who can try to explain development to us? Development issues. Who can try to explain what they think development is? Who know?
Development is like improving and having access to a lot of things.
Please come again.
Like improving the economy and having access to more things.
Okay, improvements. Okay, anyone else? Tan. Development.
And I think that it is based on having like more objects and
Okay, it's okay. Improvement. You talked about improvement, and then Gunala also talked about improvement. All right. So when we talk about development, we're talking about in the geographical context. We're talking about a country or a region being moved from one or a lower position to a higher position. All right. So a country or an area is developing from one area to a higher area. So it's actually advanced. Are we here? Okay. So we did in grade 8. We did in history. Industrial revolution, right? So we both know that in the 1800s, Johannesburg wasn't like this. There were no skyscrapers, there were no these huge buildings and developed buildings, right? It was only camps. Who's the camps? They were for who? For the miners. Who know? For that? Boos. Okay, all right. The camps were actually for the Europeans. All right, they came to Africa to explore, and then when they came to Africa, they found diamonds and gold, and then they started. That is why Johannesburg is called City of Gold. Right. So they started settling there. They just set up the camps, and then they started setting up the mines. And then it was only camps then. So after the camps, they started developing, and then they started having more buildings, and then a few skyscrapers. You know what skyscrapers are, right?
Yes.
All right. And then they started having a few skyscrapers, and then thereafter, as years went by, Johannesburg developed until it is developed until now, right? Okay. So that is what we call development. That is what we call development. So for us to be able to tell whether or not a country or an area has developed, we use the 3 aspects. All right. So what is it that you think is bad? Is it that you can use to be able to tell that this country is developed? You're looking at the 2 areas. You see this other area A, and then the area B. So you can be able to tell that, okay, area A is not really developed, and then area B has developed. What is it that you can tell? Or what is it that can tell you that this area is not developed and this one is? Samuel.
The buildings and houses.
The buildings and houses? Hamza.
Economic status, ma'am.
Economic status, how can you be able to tell?
Ma'am, like if the currency of the country is strong than other currencies.
Okay, Lina. All right. Okay. Yes, Nicole.
The population.
The population. Okay, what about the population?
In developed places, people go there because they're able to find more jobs and opportunities.
Okay. Can you explain further?
Let's say in farms in a place like here, Joburg, which has developed. In farms, you find less jobs there and less shops, but when you go to developed places, you find more buildings, more houses. So people will be trying to go to a place where they can get those opportunities like shelters and jobs.
Okay, I thought you were going to talk specifically about the population. Okay, in the developed countries or in a developed area, is there high population or the population is low? High. In a developed country?
Yes.
High population?
No.
Is it low or high? Winnie? Is it low or high population? Okay, let's make an example with Somalia and Germany. So which country do you have has a higher population? Germany. Somalia. Why do you think that is? Yes. Why do you think it's Somalia? Wait.
In Somalia, they have more children, while in Germany, they know the number of children that they should have.
They know the number of children that they should have. All right, and then in Ethiopia?
In
Somalia.
Yes. They just like give birth.
Okay. All right, she's right. In the developed countries, we do not have high population, and then in the less developed countries, we have more population. Why? Because people who are developed, they have more knowledge on having the kids. They know that, okay, you are supposed to have, it's not a must, but then it's wise not to have a lot of kids, because raising kids, taking them to school is very expensive. But then in the less developed countries, people have so many babies because they believe that we use babies for maybe for the grandkids, for SASA, maybe, and labor. We also use the kids as a source of labor. We know that if you have a lot of kids, your kids will go work in the fields. Yes. That is why we have low population in most developed countries, and then in the less developed countries we have high population. Nina, you want to say something?
Yes, ma'am. And people, ma'am, they still think that if you have more kids, it shows you are wealthy, but they still have.
Okay. So that is a sign of. That's stupidity. That's not stupidity. It's a sign of not being fully developed. Alright, there's no one who's stupid. Are we clear?
Yes,
there's no stupidity. Alright, so these are the aspects of development. When you want to tell whether or not a country is developed, you look at the three aspects alone. There are so many things that you can tell, the houses, the cars and everything, but then we categorize them into three alone, being the social aspect, the environmental aspect, and the economic aspect. Alright, so I want us to start with the social aspects. Okay, so what is it that we look into when you say that this country is socially developed? Okay, I'm going to give you 1 minute to think about it, and then you discuss it with your partner. Just 1 minute.
Maybe some area you don't need streets. They just in the house. In developed communities, you can see that they can even think that.
Alright. Please give me your views, Katla, and your partner. What do you think?
When it's like when social issues, like when they are saying like how the country is moving and like how which lifestyle they live in the specific country, like the Muslim country, you can't go and kiss your wife in the streets.
Okay. Okay, he's talking about the lifestyle. The lifestyle. Alright, what do others think? Any other pet? Lina?
Ma'am, for social, like, let's look at diseases. Like, if you check like countries like DRC, like those countries,
Yes.
They have Ebola and all those diseases, and they're spreading like really, really quickly. But look at Germany and all of them. They don't even know what Ebola is. You know, they don't have. They don't
Sometimes I
have.
learn to listen. Yes.
They don't have those diseases. Ne? But if you check in Africa, ne, as a continent, ne, the HIV things are very high. TB is high. And, but like check China and America, they're very low compared to Africa. You see, ma'am? I think, yeah.
Okay. All right. I think that's correct. When we refer to the social aspects of development, we're looking at things like education. We look at things like health and maybe housing, infant mortality rate, and others. All right. So we are saying these are social. Why? Because it's the relationship between people. That is why we refer to them as being social aspects of development. Right. So when you talk about education, if you can look into the countries that are not developed, the illiteracy rate is very high. Is that true? Is it true?
The what?
Illiteracy rate. In the poor countries, yes. Is it?
No, it's not.
It's not.
What is not?
Okay, no. Please explain. Dan is saying no, in less developed countries, illiteracy rate is not high.
Yeah, in less developed countries, the literacy rate is very, it is very low because in those countries they're not well developed, so maybe they won't have the money to build the schools where kids in that certain country will learn.
All right. So we do not have enough facilities. So if we do not have enough facilities, it means less education or no education at all. Is
Yes.
that true?
Yes.
That is why we say literacy rate is high. We have money to build schools and then take our kids to expensive schools. So it means the education level is going to be high. So it's true that in less developed countries, education level is very low. All right.
We don't have enough educated teachers.
We don't have enough educated teachers. It's true because in some other rural areas, in my country actually, in the very rural areas, the teachers, some people just went up to grade 12 alone, and then they're still able to teach while they are furthering their studies, but then they're still able to teach. While in mostly the developed countries, you won't find that. For you to be able to teach, you have to be a qualified teacher. So that is true. That's true. Okay. So in the countries that are less developed, the level of education is very low, and then that leads to things like pollution. In the countries that are less developed, people just pollute because they are less illiterate, because they do not know whether or not we should pollute. They do not know. If you are fishing, we just overfish. We do not care whether the fish is going to be extincted or not. We farming, we just don't care whether we do monoculture or we do rotational cropping. We just do things because we are not knowledgeable about things. But then in the countries that are developed, we actually do things in more knowledgeable way. Are we here? Okay. So another aspect of social development is health and housing. All right. So in the countries that are less developed, there are so many people sick. Am I right? Yes. Okay. There are so many people sick in the countries that are less developed. Why? Because
Because of less health facilities.
Because of
Less health facilities.
less health facilities. You know that in Africa we don't mostly produce the drugs, right? We have to import the drugs from other countries, right? So if we do not have enough money, then it means we won't have medication, and then the people are going to be sick, right? Okay, Lina.
And in less developed countries, if you check, the kids don't have food and they have
What you call or malnutrition. That is true. Whereas, one other thing is, Andrew, you want to say something?
And you also find out that in less developed countries, they go fetch their waters in the river, and you find out that some people poop in the
That's true. That's true.
Yes, ma'am. So then they get sick. They get diarrhea, cholera, and all those things.
So actually, sanity is not so good in the less developed countries, right? Okay. All right. So in the more developed countries, you find out that people actually they even eat well. They don't just eat junk, all of junk every day. They make sure that when we eat yes, but then we eat well, so that we can prolong our lives. Because you know that when you eat too much junk, you get sick, right? Right? When you eat too much junk, you get sick, but then you eat well, you live longer. So that says we must make sure that we eat longer. Yes.
So ma'am, when the rural areas are not developed, so ma'am, is it possible that the nurses are also not like professional?
Sometimes they still are professional, just that they do not have enough facilities. All right. So another aspect could be infant mortality rate. You know what infant mortality rate is?
Yes.
Oh, Alexander. Having a lot of children? Okay, that's well. You pass it on. You pass it on. Because when you say, I do not know, you are affirming that actually you don't know. So you pass it on, right? Okay? Yes. Jamaica.
How many children die?
The rate of children born that die at any age? Infants. Yes. Infants die. You have something different?
Ma'am, the death rate and the death rate.
Okay, let's talk about the death rate alone. Death rate. Alright. So, children that are born and then they die before they are a year old, they are still infants, right? So, that is infant mortality rate. If we have in South Africa, we have a lot of kids that are born and then they die before they turn a year. So, it means we have high infant mortality rate. So, it means South Africa is less developed, right? In the more developed countries, there's no high rate of infant mortality. Why? Because they have enough facilities and enough medication, and they can be able to take care of their kids because they are capable of doing that. All right. So shall we move on to the environmental aspect of development? Environmental aspect of development. What do you think it has to do with? Environmentally. When you look at the environment, what is it that you can be able to tell that this country is developed environmentally? Karam.
I think it's the buildings.
The buildings. Okay, the cleanliness, all right.
The streets.
The streets, what about them?
In well-developed countries, the streets are not dirty as in other countries. There's trash everywhere on the streets.
Okay, Bunod.
And environmental. Like how can you see it?
Come again?
Is developing.
Bunod, please come again. Bunod, please come again. Please come again.
Oh, like maybe you can see by the cars they drive.
By the cars they drive. Okay, we'll classify that onto the economic aspect, alright? Okay, so environmental issues, it's actually people's activities on the environment. So what is it that we do to the environment? Are we taking care of our environment, or we are just utilizing our environment? However, do we really care about it? Do we litter or do we not litter? We litter, right? You do litter, right? Yes. Yeah. So from today, you should know that after eating, you do not litter. Rather, you throw any paper in the street. Right. Okay. All right. So besides that, it's about illiteracy rate. What do people do? Are we just fishing? per se. I was just fishing without knowing at what rate or to what degree should we fish, because you know that when you fish too much, the fish species are going to extinct, right?
Yes.
So when they extinct, what happens? No more fish, right? Okay, and then we utilize. We know that soil is the resource, right? We utilize the soil and then we plant. We do monoculture, planting maize throughout the year. Next year we plant maize again. That other year we also planting maize again. We know that planting the same problem, the same piece of land actually destroys the soil structure and fertility, right? So planting different things in different years is actually doing about it. All right. Okay. So the economic aspects of development, that is actually what I wanted us to dwell on because it's quite complicated. So about the economic aspects of development, it actually talks about the wealth of a country. It talks about the wealth of a country. So here, how can we be able to tell that this country is economically developed? Angel?
Ma'am, you can look at like the technology,
Technology.
and the country's currency.
The currency. What about the car models? The houses?
The buildings.
The furniture. The furniture, yes.
The job opportunities.
Job opportunities, yes. You get into the house, okay, you go to this other area, you get into the house, and then you find this old model TVs that have like a nothing screen. Yes, and then you go to the other area, you find out that, okay, this whole area, people have flat screens and the big ones. So you can tell that this area is economically developed. The cars they drive, they're all driving X3s, maybe BMW. And then this one, they're driving chairs and which other cars? Corolla, you know.
Volkswagen 200.
We are developed.
Okay, South Africa is said to be developing. It is not there yet, it's developing. Because on the ranking, South Africa is number
500.
the ranking of the country is actually 186. So South Africa for us number 123. 123. It's not even close. It's way far. So South Africa is said to be developing. It's not developed yet. It's still developing. Bunol.
And for economic, we say you can see by the women who live there. Like when you see
Women or human beings?
like women, they're models, men, they're influence.
I think we can classify that into social, because it's also about the lifestyle. So people in the countries that are not developed, they actually just dress however, right? They dress however. Okay, we need to come again. Excuse me. Yes, Os.
I wanted to ask a question. Ma'am, where do you put kingdoms and presidents?
Where do we classify them in terms of? Wing, Carol.
I was asking where does it lie, like on the kingdom, like there are movement chiefs, and then what about the presidents? Where does it fall?
Where do we classify them? In terms of development. In terms of development. Okay. So about the kings and maybe the presidents, we just look at how well a country is developed. Because if a country is developed, then the president will be earning more money. And then our king, you will tell that, okay, this king has a lot of money. But then in the country that's not developed, the king doesn't really have a lot of money. Yes?
Ma'am, can I please ask, with your own sin, do you think Ramaphosa has money?
He does, although not that much, but then he does. He does. Okay.
Doesn't have money. Takes a
All right.
public.
Okay. So for us to actually, for us to be able to measure how much a country has developed, for us to be able to actually measure how much a country has developed, we use what we call GDP. GDP. What do you think GDP is? It's an acronym. What does it stand for? Government development. Government development. One person at a time? Count. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Government development. Okay, without wasting any time, hey, so GDP stands for alright. So GDP stands for gross domestic product. It stands for gross domestic product. Finish it. Put it together. GDP stands for gross domestic. What are we looking at? Gross domestic product. Okay. So gross domestic product is the amount of money that a country makes in a certain year. So we take an example with South Africa. What is it that South Africa produces or exports? Coal. Okay, South Africa exports coal. So it's SA. We're exporting coal. What else do we export? Gold. Diamond. Platinum.
And copper.
Copper, is it? Okay. Every good that South Africa exports. This goods together with the services. Okay, so with these services and okay, so with these services, with this goods that South Africa exports, together with any service that South Africa offers to any other country, we get money out of this. Because you know that when you sell to another person, you get the money, right? So South Africa sells maybe to Botswana, we're getting foreign currency, we're getting pula, right? And then we sell it to America, we're getting right? We sell it to the European countries, we're getting euros. We're getting euros, right? So here we're getting foreign currency. Say South Africa sells all this, and then out of that we get 10 million in a year. We're getting 10 million in a year. So GDP is actually calculated annually. In a year, South Africa makes 10,000. 10,000 what? Rands, right? That's 10,000 rands. So if South Africa makes this much money, so that money we call it GDP of South Africa. Alright? South Africa makes this much money, and then this money we call it GDP. So in South Africa, we can guess the population of South Africa.
What?
Just guess the population of South Africa.
24 million.
24 million, okay. Yeah. So maybe 24 million. 56 million, okay. So let's work with this one that we already have here. 24 million, alright. So this is the total population of South Africa, 24 million. And then in a year, South Africa made 10,000. Alright. 10,000? 10 million, sorry. 10 million. Alright. So we made 10 million in South Africa. Right. So South Africa makes 10 million. If we make it 10 million and then we have this much population, we have 24 million. So if we divide the money that South Africa has made by the total population of South Africa, what we get, we call it per capita GDP. Are we clear? We call it per capita. Who has the calculator? Elton, you have it? Okay? Alright, you can work that out for us. One time. Kamsan. Oh. You get a calculator. Okay, so we say 10 million.
6 zeros.
Right?
Divided.
What's the same calculation?
Yeah?
What is your the calculation? Okay, don't worry about all these numbers. Alright, thank you very much. Okay. So, alright, so this is going to be our per capita GDP of South Africa. So if South Africa has 24 million people, and then we make 10 million in a year, and then we divide this money by our population, then it means every person in South Africa in a year or per month is going to get 0.4 US dollars. 0.41 US dollars. Right, yes, I'm coming there. Thank you very much. All right. So when we work out GDP, we actually use US dollars alone. We do not use our local currencies. Why? Because we have too many countries with too many different currencies. So it's going to be difficult for us to be converting from shilling, from rand, pula, maluti, and many other currencies. So rather we use what we call US dollars because it makes it so much easy to work out. All right. So whenever you calculate per capita GDP, you only use US dollars. No unit, no mark. Even if we got the answer correct, if there's no unit, then it means there's no mark for you. All right. Okay. So this is how we calculate per capita GDP. So I want us to work in groups. You give yourselves the names of the countries. We only choosing from African countries. All right. So you give yourselves any name of an African country in our groups, and then we are going to decide on the population of our country and then calculate our per capita GDP. All right. Let's do that. And then we have DRC, we have Nigeria, we have Somalia, Ghana, and then we have Egypt. All right. Okay, so you decide on your population. Okay. So what's the population of Egypt? You write it down once you decide. Okay. Let's decide on the population of our country. All right. So now that we have our population, right? So you are going to decide how much money your country makes per year. All right. We are going to decide on our GDP. How much money do we make per year? Are you guys making 10,000? Are you making 10 million? 10 billion? Alright, so let's decide how much we make. Okay. Right, so this is what we're going to do. Right. This is what we're going to do. We have our population. And we have our population. And we have our GDP. So what we are going to do is you divide your GDP with your population. Divide your GDP with your population. Let's do that now. Please let me go quiet.
Use our phone.
You divide your GDP with your population. Any group does not answer? Alright, so please pass your work is over to the next group. see the next one? Alright, are we done? Just go. Are we done? Okay. Which country is Nigeria? You are Nigeria, right?
In that look, ma'am, got 0.4.
Surprise. You are Nigeria, right? Did you give your paper? Alright, please tell us their per capita GDP. 1,000. Please raise your voice.
It's $1,875.
So it's $1,875. Alright? Yes?
1.42.
Raise your voice.
$1.42.
$1.42. So it's 1,000. 1.42. 1.42, right? So it means it's $142. Alright? Yes, Nicole. $220. $0.45. Okay. 3.33. Alright, that's it. Yes? $5. $100. Alright. Yes, correct.
0.024.
0.024. Alright. So you realize that the countries which you have chosen, in fact, the countries that you have with you, the other countries have a higher GDP than the others. Alright. So it means the country that has more numbers has the 0. Which?
0.024.
024. Alright, US dollars. And then Angel? 0.35. 45. Okay. 45 US dollars. Yes.
1.875.
1,000. Okay. 1,000. Alright. So it means, which country is this?
DRC.
DRC. The next one? Ghana. What's China now? Ghana. Alright. And then the next one?
Nigeria.
1.38.
Okay. The country?
Nigeria.
Alright. So I want you guys to tell me which country you think has a higher GDP within those three countries. Nigeria. Alright. Why?
Because it has too much. It is a one before the call. It has one before the call.
Nigeria's currency, it's high compared to all the currencies in Africa. And the population is very high.
Okay. All right. So looking at this, the digit that we have, it means Nigeria has the higher GDP per capita than other countries. So that means Nigeria exports more than Ghana, more than DRC. It means in Nigeria we sell more than we are buying. Because the more you buy, the more you're giving someone the money. The more you export, the more you are getting the foreign currency, right? Okay, all right. So what does that tell you about the African countries? Referring back here, what does that tell you about the African countries and many other countries in the overseas? No.
Can you please repeat the question?
Okay. Now, having looked into GDP per capita, all right. Remember, we said that the country that is painted in blue is less developed, and then the one that's painted in red is more economically developed. All right. So, what does that tell you? Do you think the African countries and the Asian countries have more per capita GDP or less? Less, right? Yes. So it means African countries import more than they export. All right. Whereas the American countries, America and then Europe and Australia, they export more than they are import. Is it true that African countries? Okay. Yes, African countries. Is it true that we are importing more than we export? It is true, but then we are still exporting, right? Yes. So why isn't it that we are making more money and yet we are also exporting? Can't.
Because of the exchange rates.
The exchange rates. Okay. All right. It could also be because of the trade imbalance. Because you know that African countries have a lot of resources, right? We have so many resources, and then we sell them to Europe and America. But since they are rich, they call the shots. They tell us for how much they want to buy our gold. Because you do not have anything to do about it, then you can't tell them for how much you are selling your gold. So if they say that you are buying your gold for $5, there's nothing to do about it. That is trade. Right. So I just want you guys to write your full stuff. And one thing that you wish I could have explained more on. Alright? Just one thing that you wish I could have explained more on. And then two things that stood out for you.